My wife looked straight at me and said, in a tone that left no room for interpretation, that I would be sleeping on the couch until I apologized for refusing to buy her the handbag she wanted. Not just any bag, a designer one she had seen earlier that day. She framed it like a punishment, almost like a rule she had the authority to impose. My response was simple. I shrugged and told her that was fine. No arguing, no raised voice, just acceptance. A few hours later, after she went out clubbing and the house was quiet, I picked up my phone and called a friend who runs a moving company. By the time she came home very late that night, the driveway was empty and the house had changed in a way she would not expect. I had already moved out 3 days earlier, but she had no idea yet because she had not been back home since that night. To make sense of how everything escalated that quickly, I have to rewind to the beginning of the situation. About a week before all this happened, my wife, she's 34, and I were out running errands together. We've been married for 6 years, and we were together 3 years before that. Lately things have been tense between us. Not explosive fights every day, but a constant friction under the surface. The arguments usually revolved around money, the amount of time I spent working, and her feeling like she wasn't getting enough attention. Pretty standard marital tension, or at least that's what I kept telling myself. While we were walking through a shopping district, we passed a designer boutique. She stopped mid-stride and stared through the glass window display. Her attention locked onto a handbag sitting under bright lighting like it was a museum exhibit. When I followed her gaze, I noticed the price tag. $3,200. Yes, that number is correct. $3,200 for a purse. She pointed at it and said she wanted it. I nodded politely and said it looked nice. I thought that would be the end of it, just one of those passing comments people make while window shopping. But she turned toward me and clarified that she didn't mean she liked it in theory, she meant she wanted me to buy it for her that very day. I actually laughed at first, assuming she was joking. We have a financial plan. We rent our current place, but we've been trying to save aggressively for a down payment on a larger home. It was something we had discussed and agreed upon together many times. Our monthly savings goal was important to both of us, and that bag alone would wipe out roughly half of what we usually set aside in a month. So I told her gently that it wasn't in the budget. I said maybe we could think about it for a birthday or another special occasion down the road. Apparently that answer was the wrong one. Her reaction was immediate silence. Not normal silence, this was the kind that fills the entire car with tension. The kind that feels heavy and deliberate. We drove home with the radio off and not a single word exchanged. I assumed she would cool off by the evening. Instead, that night she brought it up again. She mentioned that one of her friends had recently received the exact same bag as a gift from her husband. She implied that the fact I refused to buy it meant I didn't value her the same way other men valued their wives. I explained our financial goals again. I reminded her that we were saving money intentionally so we could eventually move into a home we actually owned. I pointed out that $3,200 for a handbag was a serious expense when we were trying to be responsible. Her response was that other husbands buy their wives expensive things all the time. I told her other husbands probably have very different financial circumstances. That's when the conversation took a strange turn. She looked at me and calmly said that I would be sleeping on the couch until I apologized and bought her the bag. I honestly thought I misheard her. I asked her to repeat what she said. She repeated it exactly the same way. According to her, I had embarrassed her by refusing to buy the bag, and until I fixed that mistake, the couch would be where I slept. For context, I'm an electrician who runs my own small operation. I make around $78,000 a year. She works part-time at a boutique and earns maybe $22,000. Our agreement has always been that we split bills proportionally. I pay more because my income is higher. That arrangement was actually her suggestion originally because she said it was the fairest system. But suddenly I was being called cheap for not spending thousands of dollars on a purse while we were trying to build savings. So I looked at her and said okay. No problem. If she wanted me on the couch, I would take the couch. She seemed genuinely surprised by that response. I think she expected me to argue or give in. Instead, I grabbed a pillow and blanket, laid down on the couch, and went to sleep. The next morning she was still distant and cold. She barely spoke while getting ready. I went to work as usual and came home that evening to find her getting dressed to go out. I asked where she was going. She replied that she was going out because if her husband didn't appreciate her, she might as well find appreciation somewhere else. That should have been a massive red flag, but I was too tired from work to engage in another fight. I just told her to have fun. She left around 8 in the evening. I waited until about 9. Then I started making phone calls. One of my closest friends owns a moving company. I had done some electrical work on his house for a heavy discount a year earlier, so he owed me a favor. When he answered, I asked if he could help me move some things that night. He sounded confused at first, then asked if I meant immediately. I told him yes, tonight, if possible. After I explained the situation, he laughed and said he was absolutely willing to help. By 10 o'clock he arrived with 2 guys and a truck. Here's an important detail, the house we rented was under my name only. I had signed the lease long before we got married. Most of the furniture inside the house was either mine from before the marriage or items I personally purchased later. The television, the couch she had just banished me to, the dining table, the bed frame, almost all of it belonged to me. So we loaded everything that was mine. It took about 3 hours. What remained in the house when we finished was her clothing, her car in the driveway, some kitchen items that had been gifts specifically for her, and an old air mattress from the garage that I left in the living room. I also loaded my truck with my work tools, gear, and personal belongings. By around 1:30 in the morning, the place was nearly empty. Before leaving, I placed the house keys on the kitchen counter and wrote a short note. It said that since I was going to be sleeping on the couch anyway, I figured I might as well take it with me. I also reminded her the lease would expire in 30 days and wished her luck with the handbag. After that, we drove to my friend's storage unit, unloaded everything, and I headed to my mom's house. She has a spare bedroom and told me I could stay as long as necessary. Around 2 in the morning my wife sent a text message saying she was staying late at a friend's place and I shouldn't wait up. I replied that it was no problem. She still had no idea I had already moved out. 3 days passed like that. She continued staying with friends and occasionally texting me, still demanding that I apologize. I never told her about the move. I waited for the moment she would go back home and discover it herself. I honestly wasn't sure if what I had done was incredibly clever or incredibly stupid. Time would reveal which one it was. 5 days later she finally found out. At 6 in the morning I received a phone call from a number I didn't recognize. I answered it. Immediately there was screaming, loud, chaotic screaming. It took me a moment to realize it was my wife. She demanded to know where everything in the house had gone. She asked if I had robbed the place. I calmly explained that the furniture belonged to me and I had taken it with me when I moved out. She accused me of theft. I told her the furniture had been mine before the marriage and reminded her that the lease was also under my name. I had every right to take my belongings when leaving. She seemed shocked by the idea that I had actually moved out. According to her, I was only supposed to sleep on the couch for one night. I corrected her. She had said I would remain there until I apologized and bought a $3,200 bag. I wasn't planning to do either. So I removed myself from the situation entirely. She demanded I return immediately with the furniture. I told her her belongings were still in the house, along with the air mattress. She said she couldn't live like that. I told her she would have to figure something out. She hung up. Moments later my phone started exploding with messages, insults, threats, accusations. She threatened to call the police and accuse me of theft. She claimed I had abandoned her and left her with nothing. I documented every message and sent screenshots to a friend who works as a paralegal. His advice was simple: keep records of everything. Later that afternoon her mother called me and accused me of ruining her daughter's life. She claimed what I had done was financial abuse. I ended that conversation quickly and blocked her number. Soon after, my wife's best friend texted me to inform me that my wife was telling everyone I had suffered a mental breakdown and destroyed the house before leaving. I blocked that number too. Eventually my wife even showed up at my mother's house demanding to see me, threatening divorce if I didn't return. When my mom told me she said that, my only reaction was that it would save me the filing fee. The next morning I was officially served with divorce papers. She was asking for half the value of all the furniture I removed, alimony, half my retirement account, and payment of her legal fees. So I hired a divorce attorney. The situation escalated further when she started contacting my clients and telling them I was mentally unstable. One of them canceled a $6,000 job because of the rumors. Police even showed up once after she reported that I had stolen her property. Fortunately I had documentation proving the furniture belonged to me. Eventually negotiations happened through lawyers. We offered a settlement of $8,000 and no alimony. She rejected it and demanded $25,000 plus 2 years of monthly payments. My attorney prepared for court. Then the lease expired. The landlord inspected the empty house, kept the security deposit due to the condition she left it in, and I walked away from the property entirely. Eventually she called again, saying she couldn't afford a lawyer. I lowered the settlement offer to $5,000. 2 hours later her lawyer accepted. The divorce was finalized 2 months later. It cost me roughly $19,000 in total losses, legal fees, and lost work. But it ended everything. Now I live in a small one-bedroom apartment with my furniture, my tools, and my peace of mind. The bag she demanded still sits somewhere in that store, unsold. And every night I sleep in my own bed instead of a couch in a house where I wasn't respected.